Welcome back. Take a breath, settle your shoulders, and let's name what happened. After the discard, you were supposed to crumble, chase and beg. That was the script they wrote for you. But today's turning point is different. What unfolds when you accept the discard without protest, without performance, and simply keep walking? That single decision, quiet, steady, unapologetic, short-circuits the entire control system they rely on. It is not revenge. It is boundary. And boundary, to a narcissist, feels like an earthquake under a glass tower. Narcissists rarely treat discards as endings. They're opening moves in a longer game called the reverse hoover. The plan is simple. Leave you abruptly, trigger panic, then return later as the rescuer to a more compliant version of you. If you fight the discard, they win twice, once by hurting you, again by being chased. But if you refuse the part, the stage goes silent. Their lines hang in the air with nowhere to land, and the audience, your attention, has left the theater. A community member told me their story. After weeks of warmth came a strange fog. Messages slowed, plans slipped, explanations blurred, then vanish. Days. A sudden reappear, as if nothing happened. Then vanish again, right before a planned weekend. Familiar? It's not forgetfulness. It's a calibration ritual. Each disappearance measures your tolerance for confusion and your willingness to self-blame. The algorithm learns how little can they give and still keep you reaching. This time, though, the response changed. No pleadings, no late-night paragraphs seeking clarity, just observation. I'll watch what they choose. That will tell me everything. And it did. Ghosting repeated, promises evaporated. Silence answered the only question that mattered. Were they capable of basic care? Their behavior delivered the verdict you were afraid to render. The relationship ended not with a speech, but with a pattern, signed in absence and stamped by avoidance. Accepting the discard defies the central assumption that powers their ego, that you need them more than they need honesty. In their private monologue, they're indispensable. They picture your phone lit with unanswered calls, your heart pacing in circles. Your panic is the scaffolding that props up their grandiosity. When it doesn't arrive, when your line stays quiet, the scaffolding creaks. Grandiosity without an audience is just someone shouting in an empty hall. Understand their test. The discard isn't closure, it's quality control. They're gauging the potency of your self-doubt. If you collapse, they can return later to a softer version of you, grateful for crumbs. If you regulate, detach and go still, the test fails. Suddenly the lever that once moved you no longer moves anything. They pull again, harder, and the mechanism stays still. What happens next isn't insight, it's escalation. Phase 1 of escalation is spectacle. New love, new trips, new captions, written like daggers dipped in glitter. The locations are strategic. The restaurant you named, the trail you circled on a map together. The weekend they forever postponed. Smiles are staged like evidence. It's supposedly about joy, but the lens is aimed at one viewer, you. If you flinch, they feed. If you applaud, they feed. If you watch, they feed. So your medicine is not watching. Your refusal isn't cold. It's kind to your nervous system. At first, silence feels like withdrawal. The body, trained to expect storms, paces the windows of the mind looking for weather. That discomfort is data. You're stepping off the roller coaster. Stay with it. Keep your feet on ground that does not move. What aches today becomes room tomorrow. In the emptiness, you begin to hear someone else again. Yourself, unedited, unargued, unafraid. This quiet is not passive. It is disciplined relief. You replace checking with breathing, doom scrolling with walking, over-explaining with journaling. Your brain, starved of cortisol drama, relearns the taste of calm, the trauma bond. Those surges of relief after devaluation weakens without refeeds. What felt like love reveals itself as the chemistry of intermittent reinforcement. When the casino closes, the slot machine inside you finally powers down. Weeks pass. You do not call. You do not orbit. Your life expands in ordinary, holy ways, laundry done on time, laughter that doesn't need translation, sleep that actually restores. Somewhere else, a familiar itch begins to crawl under their skin, loss of control. They wonder why the usual bait isn't working. They wonder who you're with, what you're doing, whether you miss them. Control confuses absence with betrayal. Your absence becomes their obsession. Enter the heat check. First, it's deniable. A story view from a barely mutual account. A like on an old photo. A song sent without context. If you respond, they mark the spot. If you don't, they escalate. Thinking of you. An accidental one-ring call. A late-night hope you're okay. Each probe is a stethoscope pressed to your boundary, listening for a heartbeat of permission. Your silence reports a flatline. No access. Blocked channels breed entitlement. Wait, I end things. How dare you end access? Rage dresses up as concern. They switch numbers, create throwaways, enlist mutuals. If you still don't engage, the mask thins. How quickly miss you becomes you never loved me. Projection follows. Traits they can't hold get hurled back at you. Liar, selfish, cold. You don't have to argue with a mirror, they're aiming at you to avoid looking into themselves. Sometimes they arrive in person, pounding on a door they once walked past without a word. Do not open. Doors are metaphors. Keep yours intact. Refusal is not cruelty. It's safety engineering. If you speak at all, speak through wood. Now is not a good time. Better yet, let silence speak. Every unmet demand teaches your boundary to stand unaided. Their volume rises precisely because their influence falls. That's physics, not fate. Named the wound. Narcissistic injury. Your indifference lands like proof that their superiority is a costume. Relevance, not love, is their oxygen. When your life continues without them, calmer, clearer, that oxygen thins. The injury is not that you dislike them, it's that you don't revolve around them. To the grandiose self, irrelevance is annihilation. So they scramble to rebuild the altar first with you, then with anyone who kneels. Meanwhile, the perfect new chapter phrase. Restlessness creeps. The smile stiffens. They check your feet under a table they once reserved for two. The new partner notices the flicker behind the eyes, the distraction, the quick temper, the sudden cold. Triangulation enters. My ex never made this a problem. Yesterday you were demon, today you're gold standard. It's not affection, it's leverage crafted from fiction. Your silence accelerates the reveal. Without your background validation, your worried texts, your ritual apologies, their performance clock runs fast. The new supply meets the version of them you learn to translate. No shared history softens the edges. No goodwill buffers the spikes. The cycle compresses. Idealize, devalue, control, repeat. What took months now takes weeks. Your absence doesn't heal them. It removes the cushion that hid the bruise. Let's honor the hard part. Accepting the discard isn't numbness. It's grief with boundaries. You're burying a fantasy of who they could have been, of how your love might have saved them. Funerals for futures are quiet. Light a candle. Write a letter you never send. Tell the truth to a page that cannot gaslight you. Healing prefers humble rituals to grand gestures. Tiny faithful acts, sleep, water, sunlight, are how life sneaks back. Notice the upgrades inside you. You pause before answering. You feel before fixing. You confirm before confiding. That's not paranoia. That's wisdom with new boots. You stop translating red flags into poetry. You stop calling anxiety chemistry. Quiet joy, once dismissed as boring, becomes your favorite room. You understand that peace is not the absence of intensity. It is the presence of safety. Safety is what lets love breathe without hyperventilating. What about closure? You give it to yourself in complete sentences. They chose confusion over care. They showed me who they are. I am allowed to believe them. You will be tempted to audit your flaws as if perfection could have prevented abandonment. It could not. Abandonment is a behavior chosen by the abandoner. Your work is not to become abandonment-proof. It is to become self-respect-proof against anyone who bargains with your worth. The hoover arrives on schedule. Apology-flavored. Nostalgia-sweetened. I've been doing a lot of thinking. Translation. The supply pipeline kinked. You are not a faucet. Real repair names harm, accepts limits, and stays consistent after no. What knocks soon is not transformation, but hunger, with better manners. You owe your future self a policy. No reunions without demonstrated recovery, and recovery is measured over months, not messages. You'll hear rumors. They've changed. They're happy. They've settled. Let the wind carry those leaves. Presentation is not presence. Theaters can be full while the actors starve. Your task isn't fact-checking their storyline, it's building one that makes theirs irrelevant. The opposite of obsession is not ignorance. It's absorption into work, friendship, laughter, the garden of ordinary days where your nervous system learns to nap. If you slip, you haven't failed. Healing is a spiral, not a ladder. Some mornings, you'll want to peek, to measure your progress against their page. Do something kinder instead. Measure your breath. Count the quiet wins. No reply sent. No drive-by check. No rabbit hole entered. Put those beads on a string called "Today I Chose Me." Wear it. String another tomorrow. Necklaces of small choices outshine grand apologies you'll never get. Why does indifference hurt them more than anger? Anger still faces them. Indifference faces away. It starves the loop that loops you back. When you no longer translate their fog, fabricate their excuses, or finance their self-image with your focus, you step out of the gravity well. They can shout, but space does not carry sound. Out here, your silence is not a weapon, it's weather they cannot change. If they return with rage, remember, volume is not validity. You don't owe a courtroom, you owe a boundary. This conversation is not safe for me. I'm unavailable for contact. Please communicate through counsel. Script lines in advance. Adrenaline steals language. Save screenshots. Block with kindness. Report when needed. Safety is practical. Locks, logs, allies. Peace isn't just a feeling. It's a plan you can hand to your future. Here's the quiet victory. The discard they engineered to prove your dependence became the stage where you proved your dignity. They expected collapse. You chose continuity. You didn't win by out-arguing. You won by outgrowing. Let them orbit the empty center of their story. Your life has gravity of its own now, pulled by purpose, kept by boundaries, warmed by people who don't need you small to feel big. In the weeks that follow, something subtle but extraordinary begins to happen inside you. The need for answers fades, replaced by curiosity about yourself. You start remembering the hobbies you paused, the laughter that used to echo easily, the quiet rituals that once grounded you. Every small rediscovery is a rescue mission for your identity. It's not dramatic, it's daily. Healing rarely announces itself. It whispers through ordinary consistency. Meanwhile, the narcissist is unraveling. They can't grasp how calm can exist without their chaos. Your detachment exposes a truth they cannot bear. They were never the source of your worth, only the distraction from it. Their confusion manifests as anger, then anxiety, then desperation. They might even rewrite the story publicly, casting themselves as the one who was wronged. Let them. False narratives collapse under the weight of lived peace. At some point, they will test again. The bait will evolve, maybe remorseful, maybe nostalgic. I've been thinking about how good we were. Notice the phrasing, not how I hurt you, but how good we were. It's a sales pitch for history, not accountability. The trap is subtle. To debate it, you must re-enter the frame they control. Don't. The most disarming phrase in your arsenal is, "I wish you well," then nothing more. Your silence becomes a mirror. When they stare into it, they see the parts they disowned: shame, envy, inadequacy. That reflection burns, so they throw blame to dim the light. But mirrors don't argue. The longer you hold your peace, the more their projections return home like boomerangs. Eventually, even they tire of fighting an opponent who doesn't exist outside their imagination. Understand this. The narcissist's breakdown isn't punishment from the universe, it's maintenance of truth. Systems built on illusion require constant power to stay lit. When you unplug attention, the lights flicker, then die. Their meltdown is the sound of machinery running without fuel. Don't gloat, don't pity. Just observe. It's not your lesson to learn again. It's theirs repeating because they refuse to study the first time. You, on the other hand, are studying. You start noticing patterns, not just in them, but everywhere. How people who crave control speak in absolutes. How empathy without boundaries becomes self-erasure. How peace feels foreign only to those raised on conflict. Awareness is your new armor. It's invisible but radiant. You no longer need to prove goodness. You embody clarity. The frequency of your life has changed, and not everyone can tune in. Friends may ask, would you ever take them back? The honest answer isn't rage, it's revelation. There's no version of me left that fits into that story. Growth doesn't need revenge. Closure isn't delivered by apology, it's built by evolution. You outgrew the lesson. The door isn't locked from spite, but from completion. Some chapters end, not because they failed, but because you finally learned how to read the signs. Around this time, a strange peace settles. It's not euphoria, it's equilibrium. You wake and the first thought isn't them. You check your phone, not their feed. You breathe and the air feels ordinary again, which is miraculous after gaslighting made normality feel rare. This stage is fragile. Protect it. Don't test it by revisiting the fire to prove you're flame-proof. Healing is proved by staying warm, not by touching the burn. From the narcissist perspective, this peace is provocation. They may escalate publicly, cryptic posts, mutual friend gossip, subtle digs meant to pull you back into reaction. Remember, outrage is engagement, curiosity is contact. You owe them neither. People who need conflict for connection will settle for silence, as long as you stop supplying sparks. Let them talk to their echo. You're not part of the acoustics anymore. There will be relapses of memory. A scent, a song, a season will summon the ghost. When it does, don't run or romanticize. Let nostalgia pass like weather. Feel it fully, then fact-check it. For every golden recollection, recall the price, how your laughter dimmed, how walking on eggshells became routine, how love turned conditional. Memory without honesty is mythology, and you're no longer worshipping false gods. If guilt creeps in, because empathy often feels guilty for boundaries, remind yourself compassion doesn't require contact. You can wish them healing from afar while still keeping your peace sacred. Their pain is their curriculum, not your extra credit. The world doesn't need another martyr. It needs more healed people who refuse to recycle abuse disguised as understanding. Watch how your silence echoes through their new relationship. The narcissist, unsettled by your non-reaction, will project the unrest onto the new partner. Why aren't you like them? They cared more. Comparison poisons the honeymoon. The new supply begins to see the cracks sooner. You didn't curse them. You accelerated the truth. Your absence became an unintentional act of service, proof that peace exposes dysfunction faster than confrontation. Eventually the hoover grows frantic. They might confess things you waited years to hear. I know I messed up. You were the best thing in my life. It sounds like redemption, but smells like desperation. Real accountability has verbs, changed behavior, boundaries respected, therapy continued. Words without evidence are breadcrumbs leading back into a maze. You've already mapped that maze, you don't need another tour. You'll know you're truly healing when pity replaces anger, and then even pity dissolves. You start to see the narcissist as someone trapped in a loop, forever chasing reflections of themselves and others. Their suffering becomes data, not drama. You don't excuse it, but you understand its origin. Emptiness masquerading as superiority. That understanding frees you from hatred's gravity. Hatred ties you. Clarity releases you. From their side, the panic deepens. The new supply starts pulling away. The mask grows heavy. Sleep shortens. They cycle between rage and charm like flickering lights. Inside, a whisper begins. Maybe I was the problem. But shame is a door they won't open. Instead, they repaint it with blame. And yet beneath all that noise, your absence hums like truth. They hear it even in crowded rooms, the sound of someone who no longer belongs to their control. One morning, you realize you haven't thought about them in weeks. The relief isn't dramatic, it's subtle. like realizing a constant background hum has stopped. You didn't just survive, you recalibrated. Your nervous system trusts peace again. That's the milestone nobody posts about. The day ordinary life feels safe, celebrated quietly. It's the truest form of victory, peace that doesn't need witnesses. Healing doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop confusing caring with caretaking. You can love without losing yourself. You can listen without absorbing. Boundaries don't block compassion. They channel it wisely. You learn that empathy, without self-respect, is empathy weaponized against its owner. Now your compassion has criteria. It includes you. Meanwhile, the narcissist breakdown reaches its climax. The empire of image crumbles. Friends withdraw. Stories contradict. They try rebranding, spirituality, success, sudden humility. But underneath is the same hunger for validation. The mask changes color, not composition. Each failed reinvention tightens the feedback loop of shame. They're haunted not by your anger, but by your absence. You became the silence they can't manipulate. In time, rumors reach you again. Perhaps they're struggling. Perhaps they're lonely. You feel a flicker of sympathy, and then a clearer realization. It's not your responsibility to fix a wound you didn't inflict. Everyone is entitled to their own lessons. The difference now is perspective. You can see the pain without stepping into it. That's emotional maturity, compassion with distance, kindness without captivity. If they attempt one final grand gesture, flowers, apologies, tears, remember, endings repeated aren't new beginnings. They're reruns with better lighting. Closure isn't an invitation to restart. It's confirmation that the pattern remains. Smile softly, decline firmly, and keep walking. Every no becomes a brick in the foundation of your peace. Every boundary reinforces the message. The game ended when you stopped playing. Months later, you look back and barely recognize the person who once begged for clarity. You're standing taller now, not because pain vanished, but because it reorganized into wisdom. You trust silence, not because it hides things, but because it reveals everything that words once distorted. Your solitude feels full. You realize you never needed closure from them. You needed connection with yourself. Here's the cosmic irony. By accepting the discard, you triggered theirs. They discarded peace, integrity, and growth, the real treasures, and kept only performance. Their life is an endless rerun of the same script, with different actors. Yours is an unscripted documentary of becoming. They chase repetition. You choose evolution. That's the difference between existing for supply and living for truth. You no longer analyze why they do what they do. You study why you stayed. And the answers lead to compassion for your younger self. How you mistook intensity for intimacy, attention for affection. Forgiveness blooms not toward them but toward yourself. That forgiveness is freedom's final form. It says, I understand why I tolerated pain, and I choose differently now. The past loses its teeth when met with understanding. In the end, their breakdown is their biography. Yours is your rebirth. You learned that control is counterfeit power and peace is the genuine article. You learned that walking away isn't abandonment, it's alignment. And you discovered the quiet miracle that happens when an empath stops performing rescue missions. You saved the only person you ever could, yourself. So let them chase ghosts. Let them wrestle with echoes. You have mornings to greet, laughter to reclaim, and a future untouched by manipulation. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference steeped in gratitude. Because now you see their discard was your doorway, their silence was your signal, and your calm acceptance wasn't the end of the story, it was the start of your freedom.